and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, we'd like to introduce to you our ongoing partnership with the Forest Trust on responsible palm oil sourcing. Before we go into the operational aspects of this partnership, I'd like to start with a few words on the critical importance of meeting consumer expectations and creating shared value for Nestlé as a consumer-facing company. The overall objective of Nestlé is to be the world's recognized leader on nutrition, health and wellness. And we know that in order to get there and to remain there, we have to achieve two fundamental things. First of all, we need to meet our consumers' expectations day by day. And we need to adjust our value proposition to consumers in line with evolving expectations of our consumers. Secondly, we have to create shared value, both for our shareholders, but also for society at large. As we know that there can only be healthy growth for our company if also the society around us is growing in a healthy way. Therefore, creating shared value is a crucial way and fundamental way of doing business at Nestlé. We focus on those areas where there is a very strong connection between the interests of our shareholders and the interests of society at large. And as Nestlé, we've identified that those areas of our core activities are nutrition, water, and rural development. Nutrition, because it's the most fundamental human need, and it's the reason why we exist as a company in the first place. Water is critical to life, food production, and to our operations. Finally, rural development. It's about the well-being of farmers, which is critical for our ability to be able to continue business in the future. Now, sourcing plays a fundamental role in this overall wider context. As Nestlé, we have analyzed the implications that are arising in the field of sustainability in our own operations, which you see here on the right-hand side in blue, with the implications rising higher up in the supply chain. This analysis has highlighted that sustainability implications are strongly concentrated in the upstream value chain. That starts with the amount of people involved in our direct operations. As Nestlé, we are the largest food company. We employ about 280,000 people worldwide. That sounds a lot, but this figure pales when you compare it with the at least 25 million people that are involved in our upstream value chain, notably farmers, including smallholders. The same applies to water use, to greenhouse gas emissions, and to a range of other sustainability challenges like deforestation, all the way down to depletion of fish stocks. Now, that doesn't sound as very good news for Nestlé at first sight, because obviously the area that we directly control is the blue area here and not the green one. The further we go up in our supply chain, the more people are involved, the less the visibility. In many commodity supply chains, as we know them today, we lose traceability somewhere along the supply chain, and we thereby lose our ability to connect with the rural communities. However, once again, our objective as a food company is to meet consumer expectations day by day. And our consumers are asking us more and more often, where do your products come from and how have they been produced? And we believe that our consumers are asking this question for all the right reasons. And we see it as our responsibility to find answers to these questions where we don't have this information today. The objective of our responsible sourcing program is therefore to, first of all, understand and where necessary transform all the various stages of our supply chain back to the farm. We do that, first of all, through our direct procurement activities, which we call Farmer Connect, through which we source from around more than 500,000 farmers every day. Products like coffee or milk, for instance. But we also do it in our more complex trade channels. There we first audit our suppliers against our supplier code. But then obviously it's critical importance for us to understand what is happening higher up in the supply chain, right? More people, less visibility, but a lot of sustainability challenges. Therefore, our responsible sourcing traceability program addresses a range of critical raw materials for which we develop responsible sourcing strategies, reaching all the way back to the farmer feedstock. You see here with a little bit of luck, yeah. You see here the 12 commodities that we have for raw materials that we have prioritized to be addressed in the period 2010 to 12. That work builds on already existing sustainability programs that we have in place for some of our strategic raw materials, including the Nescafé plan and the Nestlé Cocoa plan. With our ambition to put in place a holistic and solid basis for all our sourcing activities, we've put in place the following framework. First of all, everything starts with our Nestlé Supplier Code, which is based on the 10 major principles of the United Nations Global Compact, of which Nestlé is a member. We have then, for our extended supply chains, developed responsible sourcing guidelines. First of all, horizontal sourcing guidelines. First of all, the one on no deforestation, which implements our company's commitment on no deforestation, which is applicable to all critical materials. We have responsible sourcing guidelines also for the responsible use of water in agriculture, as well as on child labor in agricultural supply chains. And finally, we are now gradually developing step-by-step responsible sourcing guidelines for the critical raw materials just outlined on the slide before. And in the framework of this work, in 2010, Nestlé, together with the Forest Trust, have developed responsible sourcing guidelines for palm oil. They build on existing RSPO principles and criteria around compliance, protection of high conservation value forests, and free prior informed consent. But they also add 2 additional safeguards on peatlands, as well as on high carbon value forests, which we believe should be part of a credible sustainability scheme for palm oil. And I would like to kindly invite you all to follow the presentation of Peter Hang from Golden Agri later this afternoon on this topic. Nestlé's work builds first of all on defining the values, the guidelines, and then establishing transparent supply chains with the final objective of establishing traceability, which provides the basis for engaging with our suppliers and for assessing and developing them against our guidelines. The scope of our current work covers our markets in India, China, Thailand, Brazil, as well as European markets. Now, a last point before I hand over to Bastien. We want to be very clear as Nestlé. Our responsible sourcing guidelines are complementary to RSPO principles and criteria and not competing against them. Nestlé is a member of the RSPO because we fully support the RSPO system, which is critical for transforming the market, because we can only transform the market together. Our commitments in this area as Nestlé are clear and public. We are committed to source 100% of our palm oil from sustainable sources in 2015. And by the end of this year, we will source 50% of our palm oil from responsible sources, some of which is segregated certified sustainable palm oil, and the other part is for green palm certificates. The Nestlé RSGs are complementary to RSPO criteria. Therefore, a plantation that is compliant with RSPO is in a very good shape to also do the extra step of also addressing the remaining points on peatlands and on high carbon stock forests. Now, the reason why we nevertheless work a lot with TFT very intensively is because we want to know where our products are coming from. That means it's important for us as a company to gradually increase the value and volume of sustainable palm oil that we can trace back all the way back to the farm. What we see today is that there is a barrier between sustainable producers on the one hand side and sustainable users like Nestlé on the other side. And that is the fact that today it is economically highly inefficient to segregate small amounts of sustainable palm oil from large amounts of non-sustainable palm oil, and to do this segregation all the way down through refineries, shipping all the way to the end consumer. We are therefore working with the Forest Trust to establish a supply chain model which allows us to link producers with users in an economically more viable way. And before I hand over to Bastien, I'd just like to repeat one more time. Nestlé fully supports the RSPO system, which is holistically integrated into our work on responsible palm oil with TFT. And finally, I'd also like to commit to continue updating you all on the progress in our work with TFT, because we believe that the results of this work can be of benefit for a much wider range of stakeholders in the palm oil industry. Thank you.